Hello everyone, I am Ankit and you're watching StudyIQ IAS English channel. In our today's video, we are going to talk about a towering figure in Indian politics, Pandit Deendayal Upadhyay. But why are we discussing about him? It is because the BJP currently it is celebrating 60 years of the political philosophy of Pandit Deendayal Upadhyay known as Integral Humanism. Integral Humanism in Hindi is known as Ekatma Manavvad. And this are the thoughts of Pandit Deendayal Upadhyay, who was one of the co-founders of the Bharatiya Jansangh, and Bharatiya Jansangh was a precursor organization of Bharatiya Janata Party, who is in power currently in central government. And most of the policies brought by the ruling party that is in government right now, BJP, they also are in the name of Pandit Deendayal Upadhyay. For example, Deendayal Upadhyay Antyodaya Yojana, Deendayal Upadhyay Gramin Kaushalya Yojana. So this highlights the importance of this figure in the ruling party. And whenever a important figure of ruling party is in news, automatically the questions are asked in the UPSC exam, be it prelims exam. You may be asked about political concepts of Deendayal Upadhyay in terms of its comparison with Gandhiism. Similarly, in mains exam, you can be asked these kind of questions in GS paper 1 in post-Indian independence, in ethics in one form or the other, or you can utilize our today's discussion also in the essay paper of UPSC. So let us understand few details about Deendayal Upadhyay before understanding his broader philosophy of integral humanism or Ekatma Manavvad, right? Now, first, few details about Deendayal Upadhyay. Now, he is basically best known for formulating the political philosophy of integral humanism, and he propounded that human are essentially a four-dimensional being. What are the key concepts about human that we understand? Humans are made up of both body and soul, but he added two more dimensions to it. He said human beings, they are made up of body, that is Sharir, soul, that is Atma. In addition to that, he's also made up of mind, Manas, and intellect, which means Buddhi. And a true progress of a human being can only be achieved by simultaneous development of all these four dimensions. You can't develop one or two dimensions and say that the human being is particularly well developed and truly progress. You have to truly progress and respect by nourishing all these dimensions, not just the material needs. Understand? So this is basically his core philosophy. Now, his important literary works, it includes Rashtradharm, which was a monthly magazine, Panchajanya, which is even published till today. It is a weekly newspaper, Swadesh, which is a daily newspaper, and in addition to that, he also authored a drama on Chandragupta Maurya and authored a biography on Adi Shankaracharya. Similarly, his legacy continues even today. He actually saw an untimely death as his body was found outside Mughalsarai station. So now the Mughalsarai junction has been renamed as Deendayal Upadhyay Junction. Similarly, Mughalsarai, the region itself, has been renamed as Deendayal Upadhyay Nagar, right? So this is how his legacy continues even today. But the most long-lasting aspect of his legacy is his idea of integral humanism. Now, before understanding about any political philosophers, you need to keep few things in mind. First, what you need to understand is the time frame in which that particular philosopher existed. But what political philosophers do? First, that they do a critique of the existing political and economic philosophies. They even understand the problems that are plaguing the society, and by understanding or critiquing the existing philosophy or existing system of government, then the political philosophers, they also suggest way forward, right? So this is what basically all political philosophers do, and Pandit Deendayal Upadhyay was no different. So in this regard, his time of emergence becomes very important, and his ideas of integral humanism, they became public in April 1965. So this time frame becomes very important. I will let you know how this time frame becomes important. Now, Pandit Deendayal Upadhyay, he gave this particular speech when he was General Secretary of Bharatiya Jansangh, and he delivered 4 lectures at Ruia College in Bombay, highlighting what his political philosophy of integral humanism is. First, in 1965, he listed all the problems that was faced with India and the possible solutions, like every important political philosophers do. First, he understood the direction of our country's progress back in 1965, and he said that serious thought has not been given on this question on how India will continue to progress in decades after 1965. And Today, that is in 1965, even 17 years after India's independence, we can't say for sure that India is on a definite direction which has been decided upon previously. And he said that the original tenets that were followed back then, that is communism, capitalism, socialism, etc., it is not possible neither wise to adopt these foreign identifications or foreign ideologies in their original form, and it would be not be very helpful because it won't provide us with happiness and prosperity that India actually needs. So what he suggested, by critiquing the existing political ideologies that was prevailing back in 1965, he said we need an integrated form of humanism where we need to reconcile the other concepts of nationalism, concepts of democracy, concepts of socialism and world peace, and we have to imbibe them with a lens or values of India's own indigenous or Bharatiya culture, right? And then only we can think of all these ideas in togetherness in its integrated form, because we can't solely depend on foreign ideologies. We also have to incorporate these ideologies in an Indian circumstances by understanding what India's own culture is. And in that, he suggested two foundational concepts that were known as Chiti and Dharma, right? And according to him, both Chiti and Dharma will guide the philosophy and vision of ideal society of India, which will be rooted essentially in Indian culture and values, right? So in this regard, what are Chiti and Dharma? Let us find out in our today's discussion. First, let us understand what is a Chiti. Chiti is basically an innate nature or the soul of a nation, and it is referring, or it is some total of values, ideas, cultural identity that shapes a society's character. So basically, this is India's own societal ethics, and this is not just a tradition, rather this is basically a guiding principle of how our society should be in times to come. And this also determines what is right and what is wrong for a nation as a whole. And just like every our individuals have their own personality, similarly, what is the personality of a country? That is called as its Chiti, right? And policies, development models and governance of the country, they must align with Chiti so as to make our development sustainable and meaningful in its true context, which develops not just one but all four dimensions of a human being properly, right? So this was Chiti, which is basically a personality of a country, and it acts as a guiding principle of how the country would be, right? So this is basically a path that the country should take. Understood? Now let us understand what is Dharma. Now the most misconcepted part of Dharma is that people equate it with religion. But Dharma in Indian context is more than religion. It is basically a natural law or a duty that sustains the society. For example, you are a student, right? What is your duty? Your duty is to study. Similarly, what is the duty of a parent? The duty of a parent is to ensure the well-being of their children and well-being of their family. Similarly, what is the duty of an elder sibling? Duty of an elder sibling is to protect their younger sibling. Similarly, the duty of a teacher is to teach the student. So Dharma basically is when you follow your own duty, and sometimes it has been confused with religion, which is an incorrect concept of Dharma. And Dharma is basically in India, it is a principle of order, it is truth and harmony with universe. So when every people in India, they are following their own Dharma, like students, they are studying, teachers, they are teaching, parents, they are providing for the families. This is how a society functions quite effectively, and it governs relationships, it governs duties, it governs ethical conduct at all level, at individual level, at social level, and at natural level. So similarly, what is a dharma of a soldier? Dharma of a soldier is to protect his or her nation, right? So similarly, it is dharma that will sustain the Chiti. So if Chiti was the path, dharma would be the engine that will take you to that path, right? And this is why by following dharma, the nation will remain aligned on its path, aligned on its Chiti. And this dharma is universal and timeless in nature. So suppose the duty of a soldier 50 years back was also to protect India, similarly 50 years forward also the duty of a soldier of India will be to protect its motherland, right? So therefore it is expressed differently in various contexts, but what you need to understand, dharma does not change with time, and yet it remains timeless and universal. Dharma of a parent in every country would remain the same irregardless of their nationality, right? So this is what dharma is, and dharma's duty is to act as an engine which will take country on its path, that is on its Chiti. So these are the two foundational concepts that has been propounded by Pandit Deendayal Upadhyay. Now, what is the relation between dharma and Chiti? Chiti, I told you, is like a personality, soul of the nation. Dharma is a means to preserve and express this soul. So I told you, Chiti, if Chiti is a path, Dharma is an engine that will take you to that path. And when society is governed according to its own personality, according to its own Chiti, and guided by Dharma, then only the true progress of a human being of its all four dimensions will happen, and this will be called as an integrated or a holistic development of society. So in short, integral humanism places both Chiti and Dharma at the heart of achieving what is known as harmonious indigenous model of development in Indian society that is aligned with not foreign concepts but with India's own unique civilizational ethos and needs. Understand? So this is what Dharma and Chiti are very essential for holistic development of individual, holistic development of society, and holistic development of a nation as a whole. So this is a political concept that was given by Pandit Deendayal Upadhyay by understanding the problems of society and highlighting the solutions of that problem. Now let us understand the key features of its integral humanism. First, it highlights the idea of cultural nationalism. It says nation, that is India, is a spiritual and a cultural entity, not a territorial integrity, right? So even 2000 years before, when India as a nation does not exist as what it is today, we still said that many parts of different parts of the globe, they belong to what is known as Bharat. And this is the civilizational, spiritual and cultural idea of Bharat, which goes beyond its territorial borders right now. Similarly, it also gives you the concept of Antyodaya. Antyodaya means upliftment of the poorest and the last person in the society. So you can't achieve the development of the society unless you take care of the most marginalized section of that society, and that is what Antyodaya principle is. And similarly, for government, the welfare schemes have been called as Deendayal Antyodaya Yojana, right? Also, this actually highlighted the need for Swadeshi and decentralization, which means self-reliance, local economies, they needed to be rooted in Indian ethos, and you can't take a centralized development. Development needs to be decentralized and it needs to be Atmanirbhar, it needs to be Indian in that context. Also, while propounding his own theory, he rejected the ideas of capitalism and socialism because both of them, they were seen as materialistic and incompatible with Indian values. Capitalism, propounded majorly in West, highlighted that individual was at the forefront of development regardless of what the community or the broader society thinks. Whereas socialism, propounded by regimes like USSR, they propounded a communistic idea ignoring the individual needs. So therefore, both of them, they were not in congruence with Indian needs. India needed harmony of both individual and society, and therefore you need to balance rights, which is an idea of capitalism, with ideas of duties, which is borrowed from socialism, to ensure a collective welfare, ensure welfare of both individuals and welfare of both society, right? So these are the key features of integral humanism. Now what you need to understand while doing so, Pandit Deendayal Upadhyay also suggested what was needed for Indian economy back in 65, and he said Indian economy needed a basic assurance of minimum standards of living for every citizen of country. Why we needed a minimum standard of living? Because in 1965 we were facing crisis of food. India was not a food secure nation and we had to import a several amount of wheat from other countries like US. Similarly, India was facing many wars at that time. It witnessed a war with China in 1961 and it witnessed a war with Pakistan in 1965. So he said preparedness for defense of the nation was also an objective of economy. And while saying so, that we need to ensure a minimum standard of living, but after we have achieved a minimum standard of living, we need to go beyond it so that individual and nation, it acquires the means to contribute not just for progress of India but for the progress of the entire world, which is in line of its India's own personality of Vasudev Kutumbakam, right? Because world is one family for India, so you can't become developed by solely developing yourself. First develop yourself, then help the world to recover from their problems. And while doing so, he also suggested to provide meaningful employment to every able-bodied citizen and avoid wastage and extravagance in utilizing national resources, because India is a very big populated country, and to ensure economic development you need to provide employment to a larger section of population. So these all are the economic advices given by Pandit Deendayal Upadhyay. Similarly, he wanted India to develop suitable machines for Bharatiya conditions, which making available both nature and various factors of production, that is machines curated specially for Indian conditions, and ensuring that with introductions of machine and automation, you did not rely or did not reduce the need for human labor. Why? India is a populated country and you need to provide employment. So there is a chance that once you adopt machines, there is a possibility that it may lead to unemployment, right? So we need to adopt machines, we need to improve technologically, but ensuring it does not disregard the human being at all. And this is because it is our own cultural value. Similarly, one of the biggest questions in 1965 was what will be the mode of ownership in India? Will it be state ownership or will it be a private ownership? And he said the question of ownership, be it state, private or mixed, it needs to be decided based on pragmatic and practical basis. You can't say for sure we need to follow only state ownership or we need to follow both private ownership. We need to understand our circumstances and determine the mixture of both of them, right? So these are basically the economic ideas of Pandit Deendayal Upadhyay. And to understand these economic ideas, the best idea is to understand the time frame he gave the speech on. And he gave the speech on where? He gave the speech in 1965. And what were factors that was plaguing India in 1965? Unemployment, lack of food security, wars, and automatically all the ideas that he gave makes a perfect sense, right? So before concluding our today's discussion, I have curated 4 practice questions. These are modeled on the questions that have already appeared in prelims. So please do solve these questions individually. Do let me know the correct answer to each and every one of them in the comment section. And also do you let me know what do you think about the philosophy of integral humanism. Do you agree with it? Do you disagree with it? What do you think about it? Basically, I'd want to know everything, right? So these are the 4 questions that you need to solve. These are in line perfectly with UPSC questions that have been asked before, and it will be easy for you to solve. And if you want to download the notes, these will be available on the Telegram channel that is called as ATS Live. So please go and register to this Telegram channel and subscribe to it if you still haven't, and download the notes, right? So this concludes our today's discussion and we will meet each other again. Please have a very good night.